Fender liners, 4th gen Ram. Guys, welcome back to the channel. Fender liners for the front of a 4th gen Ram. I have a 2012 here with the front end of a 2013 and above, what have you. They'll all be the same, 4th gen. This one is the driver's side on this side, and that is an aftermarket passenger side. Real chintzy, as you can see. It won't even hold shape. That's how they're making them these days. Even the factory ones aren't all that. On the older 3rd gens, they were much better. They are super flimsy, but the aftermarket ones you get are even more flimsier. You can see where like on this one, for instance, you can see where the cutout is for the axis on the headlight from the bottom. On some of these Chinese aftermarket ones, it's not even cut out. It's stamped, so you can cut it. But yeah, there's nothing to it. It's really not even plastic. It's almost like styrofoam. Now this actually comes rolled up in this box. So they are not like how the 3rd gens or the factory ones are. It's not super stiff. It's actually pretty flimsy plastic. Again, it is rolled up kind of in a ball and stuck in a box. But overall, it's not too bad. Some of them I've had, they do kind of deform in shape because they're rolled up in a box. But once you take it out, put it in the sun or some heat for an hour or so, it kind of comes back to shape. This is a right side one. But for the money, they're not bad. If that's what you need. Sometimes your original ones break, crack, or you catch something on the road and puts a hole in them. Easily replaceable. I'll leave a link in the description for you if that's what you're looking for. I think that will do the job. It's just covering the wheel well. That should be okay. So we'll be putting these in. Super easy. I'll show you how to do that. Once you have all your clips on the end of it, remember there's 6 of them actually all at the lip of the fender liner. That's what attaches the liner to the edge of the fender here, right here. So you want to make sure all those clips are in and get it in position, kind of like so. There is a little opening here that goes towards the front behind the headlight, and that's true for left and the right side. So once you have it in position, kind of like so, you can try to maneuver it around and get it to fit right in the spot here. The driver's side fender liner for the front in position here. All the bolts I have in, just got to final tighten these. These are mostly all 8mm. Around here I did end up changing this clip at the bottom. That was kind of rusted out, so I put a 10mm. So that's a new one. But mostly they are all 8mm, other than what goes into the bumper here in the front. 1, 2, 3 bolts in the front. Those are a little bit bigger. Those are 10mm. And if you look at the bottom, there's 2 more right up top, right inside. Those are 8mm screws. And then in the back here, right in the back by the frame, there's a hole here. And right up front here also, where you can see the red mark. If you kind of pull the fender liner, you can see the hole. And those will use this type of plastic push pins, these buttons. We'll go ahead and put those in. Push pins in here. And the one up front, right in there. 2 bolts up top. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 bolts on the edge of the fender. Those are all tightened up. So at this time, our installation is complete. On the driver's side of the fender liner, one thing you don't want to forget, the ABS line sits right behind the fender. Or on the fender liner, there is a button that clips into this hole from behind the liner. So you want to make sure that gets clipped in right through that hole, and that'll hold that wire there. Here's where that ABS cable clips in through the back of the liner. Everything's on. Now remember, I've changed these bolts. I've seen on some of them they're all the same size, 8mm. I put 10mm here and a 10mm here at the bottom, but most of all of them are 8mm. Thing to remember, There are more holes here on the edge of the fender. Not all of them get used. Reason being that some of these are for if you are installing fender flares, then that's where the bolts for the fender flares go in. So let's get the passenger side done. One thing that does make it easier is having the wheel off. Gives you a lot more room to work. You can actually use your power tools, unless you got an angle ratchet or what have you. If the tire's here, you can't use your gun to put those screws in, especially the ones on the edge of the fender here. So it's easier to have the tire off. The installation completed on the passenger side also. Again, this is the aftermarket fender liner that I brought online. I believe it was Amazon. And I'll leave a link to this in the description if you are looking for them. My original one came loose and tire happened to catch it, so it put a nice hole in the front here. So I ended up replacing it. And that was the whole reason of doing this. Anyhow, these Chinese ones or the aftermarket ones aren't as good as your originals, but they work. Yeah, I did find some of the mounting holes. They're kind of chintzy, so I ended up using bigger washers just to hold them because the plastic is super thin there, and it'd probably rip off. So I ended up using some bigger washers. But other than that, it worked. It'll do the job. Thank you for watching.